Magandang umaga, maayong buntag, madiger dukilang. Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, world. Today, we will gonna meet the classical period from history, characteristics, the people involved, instruments, and its form. So, you better watch out.
Hi, I will give you information about the history of the classical period and also the example of the music style.
The term classical music is used in a colloquial sense to describe a variety of Eastern musical styles from the 19th century to the present, and especially from the 16th or 17th to the 19th. This article is all about the specific period from 1750 to 1820. The classical period falls between the Baroque and Romantic periods. The Baroque period culminated in the masterpiece of J. S. Bach and G. F. Handel in the middle of 18th century. Contemporaneous with the mature years of Bach and Handel, a new musical style developed that is known as Rococo or pre-classical style. This style is most evident in keyboard and orchestral music, but is mentioned here because it is represented a transition from a Baroque to the Classical era, occurring between 1725 and 1770. There are three style music during Classical period. The first one is style galant. By the early 70s, French and Italian composers used the style galant or galant style, a simple yet more direct style of music. So composer wanted to create music that is less complicated, easy to understand. Secondly, sentimental style. These styles of music reflected feelings and situations experienced in daily life. And lastly, the opera. The opera known as the light opera. This type of opera often tackles light, not so delicate subject, matter with the ending office has a happy resolution.
We'll be discussing about the characteristics of the music during classical period. And do you have any idea of who are the person involved in this period? You will know that later.
Classical music has a lighter and clearer quality and is less difficult. It is mostly homophonic. What is homophonic? Homophonic, in other words, is moving together, or shall we say, a style of composition in which there is one melody and all the voices and accompaniments or instruments move rhythmically together. A composition at this period will also fluctuate in mood. There are also maybe striking contrasts within a single theme. We all know that a composition will really depend upon the mood of the composers. In the rhythm, their style also includes unexpected pauses that will depend upon the mood. The texture. Classical music is basically homophonic. We all know that. However, texture is treated as flexibly as rhythm. Pieces shift smoothly or suddenly from one texture to another. The melody. Classical melody are among the most tuneful and easy to remember. Compositions may have a folk or popular flavor. Last is dynamics in the piano. The classical composers' interest in expressing their emotions led to the widespread use of gradual dynamic change, the crescendo and diminuendo. Crescendo is gradually getting louder and diminuendo is gradually getting softer. The important persons who contributed at this period are: first, Johann Stamitz. His service lasted during 1717 to 1757. He was the one who made use of crescendo and diminuendo effects in his music. Next is Antonio Francisco Ramos. He is best known for his keyboard sonatas, an important contribution to the harpsichord, fortepiano, and organ repertoire. He is also known as the father in religious sense. The third one is Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach. He was the second son of Johann Sebastian Bach. Bach's most valuable contribution to the classical period was his publication entitled An Essay on the True Art of Playing Keyboard Instruments. It is a technique and became the definitive for piano. Last is Franz Joseph Haydn. He was known as the father of symphony and the father of the string quartet. He was the most famous composer during this time. He wrote hundreds of symphonies, also sonatas and string quartets. Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig van Beethoven was the one who composed his 9 symphonies, which have been called the cornerstones of Western civilization. The most famous two are the Fifth Symphony and the Ninth Symphony because of their grandeur. Also, Ludwig van Beethoven was the one who contributed to the shift of a composer's social status from a servant to an artist.
Students, I'll be discussing to you instruments, strings, and woodwinds, and their classifications. So, would you like to know their classifications? Just a minute.
The first string instrument is the violin. The violin, also known as a fiddle, is a strong instrument usually with 4 strings tuned in perfect fifth. It is the smallest, highest pitch member of the violin family of the string instrument. Violin also rather small instrument that may be held comfortably under the chin. Next is the viola.
Hoy, Taysa, wala ka na 5 seconds.
The viola is a bowed string instrument. It is slightly larger than a violin in size and has a deeper sound. Viola also is slightly larger but also held under the chin. Next is the cello. Cello or cello is a bowed instrument with 4 strings tuned in perfect fifth. Cello is a large, heavy instrument propped on the floor in front of the seated player. It is also display their even, deeper, richer tones. It is also the second largest bowed string instrument in the modern symphony orchestra. Next is the double bass or upright bass. It is called the string bass, bass fiddle, bass violin, doghouse bass, contrabass, bass viol, stand-up bass, bull fiddle, or simply bass. It is the largest and lowest pitch bowed instruments of the viola family in the modern symphony orchestra, with strings usually toned. The first instrument in woodwinds is the basset clarinet. The basset clarinet is a clarinet similar to the usual soprano clarinet, but longer and with additional keys to enable playing several additional lower notes. The basset clarinet was not notably associated with the clarinet virtuoso Antonio Stadler in 1953 to 1912, a contemporary and good friend of Mozart. Next is the basset horn. The basset horn is larger and has a bend near mouthpiece rather than an entirely straight body. And while the clarinet is typically a transposing instrument in B flat or A, meaning a written C sounds as a B flat or A, the basset horn is typically in F, less than often in G. Next is the clarinet d'amore. The clarinet d'amore had a similar shape and construction, but was larger, usually pitched in G. However, it had proportionally smaller tune holes and bore, and a pear-shaped or sometimes globular bell, similar to the one of Cor Angeles. It first appeared around the middle of the 18th century and was popular in Central Europe, but was regarded as obsolete by the mid 19th century.
I will be discussing the continuation of the traditional instrument during the classical period.
Clavichord is a European string keyboard instrumental known from the late medieval through the Renaissance and Classical eras. The clavichord was invented in the early 14th century. The clavichord has also gained attention in other genres of music in the form of the clavinet. Forte piano. Fortepiano designates the early version of the piano from its invention by the Italian instrument maker Bartolomeo Cristofori around 1700 up to the early 19th century. It was the instrument by which Haydn, Mozart, and the early Beethoven wrote their piano music. Organ. Organ came from the Greek word organon, which means organ instrument tool. It is a keyboard instrument from of one or more divisions, each played with its own keyboard, played either with the hands or with the feet. The organ is a relatively old musical instrument in the Western musical tradition, dating from the time of Eusebius of Alexandria, who is credited with inventing the hydraulics. The next one is the piano. Piano is a musical instrument played using a keyboard. The piano usually has a protected wooden case surrounding the soundboard and metal strings. Piano is widely used in the classical and jazz music for solo performances, ensemble use, chamber music and accompaniment, and for composing and rehearsal. The fourth classification is the brasses. The first example is the buchin. The buchin is a visually distinctive trombone popularized in military bands in the France between 1810 up to 1845, which subsequently faded into obscurity. The sound of the buchin is something of a cross between a trombone and a French horn. At soft volume, it has a very warm, delicate sound because the bell is made of hammered thin or very thin brass. The second one is the ophicleide. Ophicleide is a key brass musical instrument similar to the tuba. It is a conical board keyed instrument belonging to the bugle family and has a similar shape to the pseudophone. Ophicleide, also like mortal sin, was fostered by the serpent. The third one is the tuba. Tuba is the largest and lowest pitched brass instrument. The sound is produced by vibrating or buzzing the lips into a large cubed mouthpiece.
I am going to tackle the traditional form.
There are four types of traditional forms: the sonata form, theme variation, minute and trio, and the last one is the rondo. If you say sonata form, it is often the first part of a multi-movement work. It has three main sections: the exposition, development, and recapitulation. The second one is the theme and variation. Each successive variation contains certain elements of the theme. Minute and trio. It is derived from a three-part or ternary dance form and may be illustrated as minute A, trio, or B, originally played by three players. Last one is the rondo, an instrumental form that was popular in the late 18th to early 19th centuries. A rondo has a main theme, or usually in the tonic key, that is restated several times as it alternates with other themes. Rondo has two types. First is the abaca and abacaba, or the A section represents the main theme. Second one is the last movement of sonatas, concerti, string quartets, and classical symphonies, and often a rondo. Overture, symphony, sonata allegro. Overture has three sections: a fast intro, a slow middle section, and a fast ending. Symphony has three, sometimes four movements. The beginning is moderately fast. Next section is slow, followed by a minute, and then a very fast conclusion. And the last one is the sonata allegro, also called sonata. This is one of the most important music forms of this period. This type of music is written for a solo instrument or a solo instrument with accompaniment.
I know that you've learned something from what we have discussed. For further information, log on to www.usep.com. By the way, I am Rocky Soto Jacor.
I am Rhea Landixen, and I am Abigail Ibanez, and I am Mary Jane Mariano, and I am Mary Joy Elegant.
The classical period.